Well, we've had Pete Talk do a whoopsie with this new Sram Eagle derailleur. And what he did is he made an assumption from just looking at the derailleur that it was actually connected and bolted on both sides. But that's not actually the case. It's only attached on one side. The other is almost like a bang plate or a reinforcement of the derailleur to make sure that it doesn't get damaged. It's like it provides a U shape around the frame. You could say it would be like a cage, but it's built into the derailleur. That's why I do believe Sram put it there to protect that and protect the frame, because they've removed the sacrificial hanger that we normally have with the derailleur, which is a very tried and proven system that we've had on our bikes for many, many years. And then we had Hunbeanie swooping in with one of his 5-year-old comments. So go check that out, because I found it quite amusing. But getting back to Sram and this new derailleur, which I would put in the box of revolutionary. And I normally don't talk about mountain bike stuff, but I can see this coming to road, and it's a revolutionary change in the way that hangers are, that derailleurs are mounted onto bicycles. So let's roll our intro and let's have a little bit of a talk about this new design on the Sram Eagle. Now, what we've actually seen here, and people might go, yeah, they've just taken away this little hanger. Now, what we need to realize is this little hanger that we've had for many, many years, decades and decades, is a device that they've put in between the frame and the hanger as a sacrificial device. And it's made from a soft aluminium. That's an aluminium that can be bent and flexed and moved around quite a number of times. It doesn't fatigue like T6 aluminium that when you bend it, it fractures. It's designed to be a soft aluminium. And as you've probably known, if you've had some situation where something's been caught in your chain or you've dropped your bike and it's not chain, you probably take it back to your bike shop. They put on this tool, and what this tool is, a hanger straightening tool, and they screw it into the place where normally the derailleur would be. And it's got like a little pin, and they adjust this pin so it lines up with the wheel. And then they swing it around like this to make sure that it remains the same distance from the wheel. And then they bend it, the hanger a little bit, and they check it again, they bend it. So when they put the derailleur back on, that they know that is now square with the wheel. And then they start doing adjustments. And then, you get your bike and you ride it out at the shop and it's all beautiful and changes as advertised. Now, what Sram have done here, they've removed that. So what's happening is now that it's like a U shape that sits like this. And one side goes to the wheel side and one side sits on the outside of the frame. And it's only attached on one side. The other side is, as I said, is just like seems like a protective piece that they've put on there. And this piece that goes in there, right, if everything's aligned and it's all good, it'll operate and it won't shift, it won't move, it won't change. And you can say, yeah, that's a great idea because it's a set and forget system, because it can't be knocked, it can't be banged, whatever. But the question mark we have here is, what sort of impact will it take? Now, we've seen a video, and I do believe Pete Talk had this video in his first video, where they're swinging the bike into a wall, and on the wall they have some sort of a block, and I'm not too sure what the block's made out of, right? And it hits that block, and then they're saying, hey, look, the derailleur's fine. But my question is that's not always when you do these tests, that's not always what happens in real life. You know, it depends on how the rock is or how it falls over or how it hits something. It can put a point pressure. It could hit the bottom of the derailleur and not the point where this block is, so it has more leverage on the bottom of the derailleur. Things happen differently in the real world. It's not like as if you do a test in a test lab and you can repeat this test and it's identical time after time, and you go, yeah, look, it can handle those sorts of forces. And the other thing as well is a lot of times your derailleur gets bent or damaged from things from your drivetrain getting locked up for some reason. Like sometimes it just comes off the jockey wheel and you go, what the hell? Or it'll get jammed up in your front derailleur and you go, what the hell? Why did it do that? And it's like, it hasn't done that for like months or years, and all of a sudden it does it. Things just happen. They happen on drivetrains with chains, and they get jammed, or you get a stick in there, or something or other happens, and you get a jamming. Now, how will this work with this device? Will it then be able to handle those sorts of forces? And that's my question, because once you damage it, it's not like, oh, we can just, there's no bending it back. There's no tool that you can adjust that hanger with. It's like, oh, the frame's broken or the derailleur's broken because it's reached its stress limit and it's gone past that stress limit and it's failed. And a lot of bikes, especially in those chainstays, can be quite fragile. They can be quite thin depending on the design. I remember when I had my Colnago C60, I was quite surprised how slim those chainstays were through the back of the bike. So it depends on the frame and the frame design. It could be quite weak in that area, and it could actually fracture your frame. So potentially, if you damage your derailleur and you damage your frame, looking at pricing, you could be up for $5,000 plus. Basically, your bike's a write-off. And this is where I've got a bit of a question mark. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but are the components that are in that line of absorbing that force, that loading force that comes on it from whatever incident happens, is their design, their engineering design, above that force that's being applied? And I intuitively would say no, especially on the frame side. I think the derailleur, I think Sram might have made the derailleur strong enough, but I don't know if the frame is going to be able to take that impact. Now, the other thing that I've got a little bit of a question mark with Sram, and I normally wouldn't have this type of question mark in general manufacturing industries, but we do know the bicycle industry has a problem with quality control. So the issue is if you make everything, if the frame's made right and the derailleur's made right and everything's made right on the bike, this will go in there, work 100%, beautiful, no problems. But as we've seen with disc brakes, is that you can have one bike and everything aligns where the calipers line up and the mounts are, and the caliper goes on, and then the wheel where it bolts on to the hub, and those are all perfectly. You put the bike together, it all lines up, the disc goes in, 100% works fine. And then you can have another bike where the mounting on the caliper is slightly off, or the hub, as we've seen on some videos, is not been made perfectly, and where the disc sits, it's not sitting flat. You just have a nightmare. You can't set the disc brakes up properly. So you have this continual problem with rubbing because they're not lined perfectly. And this is not because the disc brakes are problems, because the bike industry has a problem with quality control. So this is a bit of an issue that I see in the industry. Yeah, they want to make these fancy pieces of kit, and as designed, you go, yeah, they look pretty cool. New Eagle, making a revolutionary change in the industry. This is a new technology they're using now. But when we look in the past and we see what the bike industry has been putting out, especially for the prices we charge, I mean, we're talking about derailleur here that is going to be $800 AUD just for the derailleur, maybe even a bit more. Then you've got to ask yourself, you go, well, when we have these expensive bits of kit and we have a quality control problem in the industry, going to something that has got very little adjustment for the bike shops to be able to correct that is going to cause issues. Because, I mean, unfortunately, the issue with a lot of bike shops is that the bike mechanics that work in those shops aren't getting paid big salaries. And the reason why that is because bike shops just can't charge the amount of money that like automotive mechanics get or whatever. The rate is lower. People just won't pay it. They go, what are you talking about? $800 to get my bike fixed? You know, that's insane. You know, I can go and buy a new bike. So the reality is that mechanics are getting big money, and a lot of times I don't even believe that the manufacturers like Sram and Shimano and all this are really giving them really good quality training. Like you see these videos online, these YouTube videos where it sounds like a little machine's talking, and they're pretty average as a training video, you know. They give you a bit of an idea how these things work, but for someone who is a technical guy that needs to know the ins and out of every adjustment and the problems he may come up with on different frames, they're pretty lacking. So the whole industry itself is trying to be clever and trying to be smart, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not implemented in a professional way. And that's my issue, and that's basically what this channel is about. And I do believe that's what Pete Talk's channel is about, and also Hambini's channel is about, although Hambini has a little bit of a different take on it because it's 5 years old. So that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. So leave your comments down below. What do you think about this new design, which most probably is going to translate into the road market after time, because I would imagine they'll be using the same housing. So what we're getting on the mountain bikes is eventually going to come over to the road bike world, and we're going to have this hanger is going to be a thing of the past. So that's where I'm going to leave it, guys, and I'll see you next vid.